The Tale of Nila and the Forest Ogre. Long ago, in a quiet land of soft hills and winding rivers, there lived a little girl named Nila. She was 7 years old, with bright, curious eyes, and a heart that glowed with kindness. Every morning, as the sun stretched across the sky, Nila played at the edge of the grand forest, where wildflowers painted the earth in colors and butterflies danced like drifting petals. The butterflies adored her. They fluttered around her hair and danced along her sleeves. Sometimes she twirled slowly, and a ring of butterflies circled her like a swirling crown. The forest knew her gentle spirit. The wind softened around her, carrying the sweet perfume of blooming flowers. Tall trees leaned slightly whenever she passed, as if bowing to the small girl who brought laughter to their roots. Her mother, Lyra, often watched from the doorway of their clay house. Lyra had grown up in the same land, raised alone by Nila's grandmother. She had been her mother's only child, treasured and loved. The grandmother had lived deep in the forest all her life, surrounded by herbs, healing plants, and memories of old seasons. It was the way of their family: peace, nature, and the wisdom of the earth. But deep in that same forest, older than rivers, older than the tallest trees, older even than Nila's grandmother herself, lived an ancient ogre. He had one enormous eye, bright and unblinking, 2 long crooked fingers, and a single massive toe that left deep marks wherever he walked. His breath smelled of smoke and forgotten bones. The elders whispered that he had existed long before humans settled the land. For years, he had slept in a hidden cavern where moss grew thick and the sun never reached. But that morning, something stirred him. As Nila's mother carefully prepared a pot of warm broth for her grandmother, the ogre's ancient ear caught the sound of their voices. His single eye snapped open, hunger old, dangerous, and heavy curled inside him. He listened. Nila, Lyra whispered, placing the covered pot in her daughter's hands. Your grandmother is ill. Take this to her. Walk the forest path, stay on it, and do not talk to anyone you do not know. Nila nodded bravely, hugged her mother, and began her journey unaware that a terrible creature was already moving through the shadows. But the forest, still full of kindness for her, greeted her gently. As Nila stepped into the trees, the sun laid warm golden rays across the path. It was as if the sky stretched out a glowing carpet just for her. The tall trees bowed quietly in the wind, their branches lowering just enough for soft green leaves to brush through her hair like a loving caress. The breeze hummed through the leaves, wrapping her in a warm, comforting whisper. Everywhere she stepped, the forest seemed alive with welcome. Birds perched on branches above her and sang in sweet melodies, soft whistles, fluttering trills, and high twinkling notes. Sometimes they flew beside her, fluttering from branch to branch as if guiding her deeper into the woods. The path was wide and glowing with sunlight. Wildflowers leaned toward her feet. Dragonflies skimmed over pools of water. Tiny squirrels peeked from behind tree trunks and then hid again when she giggled. Halfway along the path, a bright green frog hopped onto the road and landed right in front of her toes. Nila gasped and then laughed. The frog blinked twice at her, as if greeting her politely, then bounced away with cheerful little jumps, leading her forward like a tiny glowing guide. The deeper she went, the more the forest revealed its beauty. Sunlight filtered through the tall leaves in shifting patterned circles, diamonds, ripples of gold dancing on the ground as she walked. The air smelled of sweet sap and fresh earth. Sometimes she reached out to touch the rough bark of ancient trees, older than stories, and she felt their warmth beneath her fingertips. They stood tall, like guardians, watching over her with silent strength. Then the land opened into a small clearing. A gentle creek flowed through it, its water sparkling like scattered crystals under the sun. Tiny fish darted beneath the surface, their scales glinting like silver coins. Nila knelt and dipped her fingers into the cool water. It felt like touching liquid moonlight, soft and soothing. She stood and continued, her footsteps light. Her hair glowed in the sun, butterflies trailing behind her like a living rainbow. She felt safe, protected, loved. She had no idea that deep behind her, hidden among the darkest trees, the ogre was moving too. His huge eye watched her from the shadows, but she was too far to hear his heavy steps. And the forest, in its kindness, wrapped her in sounds of nature so gentle that the ogre's presence could not disturb her peace. The frogs croaked softly, the birds whistled brightly, leaves rustled like whispered stories. Everything she saw was beautiful, almost magical, and for a long time, she forgot fear entirely. She walked for a long while through golden sunbeams and tall, whispering trees until the forest slowly grew dimmer, the colors deepening. The air cooled, Shadows stretched long on the path. Though still beautiful, the forest felt older and quieter. She held the pot close and whispered, "I'm coming, grandmother." Finally, she reached her grandmother's small hut. She knocked gently, just as her mother had taught her. "Come in," rasped a low, strange voice. Nila stepped carefully inside. The room was dim, and the air smelled heavy. Something felt wrong. Her heart thumped. She stepped closer and froze. A single enormous eye blinked in the shadows. "Grandmother, your eye is so big," Nila said slowly. "So that I can see you better," growled the deep, terrible voice. Nila's eyes widened. Two long crooked fingers poked out from under the blanket. "Grandmother, your hands, they are so big, so I can hold you tightly," the voice rumbled. Nila's gaze fell to the foot sticking out from the blanket, a massive toe the size of a small log. "Grandmother, your feet, they are so big, so I can walk far to meet you," whispered the ogre. Then Nila understood everything. Her grandmother was gone. The creature before her was the ogre. Carefully, she placed the pot down on the floor. Her legs shook, but she turned and ran. The ogre roared, ripping the blanket off the bed and chasing her. Trees shook, leaves scattered, birds screamed and flew into the sky. The forest trembled with his fury. But Nila ran faster. She slipped between narrow trunks, leaped over twisted roots, and ducked under branches. The forest seemed to bend to her will. Sunlight streamed down, marking the path. Frogs leapt across the ground to guide her. Birds sang loudly, confusing the ogre and slowing him. Roots tangled his toe. Low branches scratched his fingers. Every step he took made him stumble. Nila ran through sun-dappled clearings, along sparkling streams, across soft, mossy ground. Her heart pounded, but her courage never faltered. She remembered the warmth of the forest, the soft touch of the leaves, and the gentle guidance of the creatures around her. They had protected her all this way, and they would not let her fail. Finally, she burst from the dark trees into a wide sunlit meadow near her home. The sunlight felt like a blanket. Her mother ran to her, wrapping her in strong, loving arms. "Nila," she cried, "you're safe." Nila collapsed against her mother, breathing heavily. "The forest, it helped me," she whispered. Her mother kissed her hair. "It always has," she said softly. Far behind them, the ogre roared in frustration, but the forest had closed its paths. He could not follow. The trees, the branches, the roots all had risen together to protect the brave little girl. And soon, his cries faded entirely into the shadows. From that day on, Nila never walked alone in the forest, but when she went near it with her mother, butterflies trailed behind her, birds sang their sweet songs, frogs hopped along the streams, and the trees brushed her hair softly. The forest remembered her, and Nila remembered it. It had shown her that courage, kindness, and love could light the darkest paths, and even the oldest, most fearsome shadows could be overcome. And in her heart, she carried that lesson forever.